All right, we'll get started. Thank you for coming, everybody. Welcome to the Australian Tapestry Workshop. My name is Sophie Travers. I'm co-director here with Catherine Jones, who you will have met when you came in. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we're here on Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung land and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all First Nations people with us here today, acknowledging that this land was never ceded. Now today is a very special occasion. We have an in-conversation event with our artist in residence, our Hancock Fellow, with support from the Tapestry Foundation of Australia. And that is a conversation with Moheb-Zandi and Sophie Prince from Curator from ACCA. I'm not going to do extensive introductions because I know you want to hear from our wonderful speakers today. Just to say that the residencies are a very important part of what we do. We receive Creative Victoria support for a lively program of residencies throughout the year, and those are an important means for us to stay connected to art and artists, not just in Victoria, but around Australia and the world. So we have a designated regional residency, a designated First Peoples residency, and a designated international residency. They're all supported for artists to come and work with our artists, our weaving artists and our dye lab artists, and extend our practice and extend their practice. It's a very lively annual exchange. And a little plug, that's just about to open for call-outs. So tell any artists that you think might benefit from time working here. It's a very open and porous environment where we learn as much as the residents do. And we particularly like to look at other forms of textile art. Our language is the handmade, but it's also colour, and it's also anything that is textile related. So we have a large community around the world, and we're very proud to be part of that. So today is in the context of that, with the connection to contemporary art and extraordinary curation that is at ACCA, including a very beautiful tapestry by Kayla Mattis from the US. So connecting to the contemporary art world, but also connecting to leading artists who are working with textiles, and that's where we're so lucky to work with Desiree. So without further ado, we'll get started. Are we taking any questions? Are you happy to have a few? So we'll have some few questions at the end, if you can just save them up till then. And then we'll have an opportunity to look around the space. Catherine and I are here. We're happy to talk to you about 5 tapestry projects that are on the loose, very diverse range of projects, about the incoming artists in residence, Jackson Barley and Kate Bainan, who will be the next artist whose work you can see in the other gallery, or any questions you have about our work here. So thank you again, everybody, and let me hand over. Thanks.
Thank you, Sophie. Good afternoon, everyone. Is this quite loud? Okay. I'd also like to begin by acknowledging where we are and pay our respects to the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and Bunurong peoples. As I'm looking around and had a little walk through the workshop and this exhibition, I'm seeing some incredible materials and First Nations artists, and there's this really strong connection to the beautiful country we're on, and it's not without respect and engaging with our First Nations custodians that we can properly respect and continue to have sustainable relationships with nature, country, and each other. And it's been, sorry, it's kind of got some reverb. Maybe I'll move away a little bit. Sorry, guys. So, it's okay? Okay. I think that's a bit better now. Yeah, it's been such a pleasure to meet Desiree just yesterday for the first time in person. And that connection to culture and country and Indigenous knowledge keepers and ancestors who've been passing story of how to connect to sustainable extraction and work with innovatively with their materials to create technologies that are incredibly ancient and incredible. That's been very much part of your biography, I would say. Can you tell me a bit about some of the cultural influences and connections, because you're quite international, having grown up and lived across many countries?
Thank you for accepting to do this talk with me. It's a pleasure to be doing this at the Tapestry. I was born, I'm Turkish Iranian. I was born in Berlin and raised in Southeast Mediterranean Turkey. I was raised by a woman, by my grandmother and my mother, so I think that transmission of textiles was part of everyday life. My grandmother would sew, knit, weave, so being surrounded by that, all these keepings with their symbols and meanings, or just lots of textiles knowledge. Like also my father's side, Iranian fabrics, celebration fabrics, or from Uzbekistan, my grandfather's Uzbek, he would bring ikat weavings. When I moved to New York to study at Parsons, I realized how much of that I was already carrying in my textile sensibility. And when I started weaving on a big loom, it was kind of love at first sight, because it's just a very ancient yet contemporary tool where the possibilities and just the ritualistic side of it and all these aspects that maybe we'll dwell on later. So that's how the journey started. But I lived in New York for 10 years and then was in Brazil and then back in Turkey during lockdown, making works there. And the last 5 years I've been in Paris. So being at the Australian Tapestry workshop is very special because I actually applied 8 years ago. I didn't get in. Like things take time, and I think it's also about, I think to get somewhere sometimes you have to keep going, and it's important to fail because it's in the middle of the day. How many times have you failed? Then you're closer to success. So it just feels like a full circle that I'm here doing this residency. It's a super special place. It was really a dream of mine, just being surrounded by all these looms and weavers that are master weavers that have so much knowledge. Heather Thomas, who's been helping me with the dye, understanding natural dyeing. So we made a new body of work. It's been
the canvas at the back just got hung yesterday? Today?
Yeah,
It's very fresh. It's beautiful. Heather, are you here? Hi. Do you want to come up for a sec and just tell us a bit about the route you were working with? That would be nice.
it was really fun introducing Desiree to the natural dyes. So the work up the back, we dyed the cotton canvas with the madder root. So it was like a combination of Indian madder root and European madder root, which are natural dyes that have been used for thousands of years throughout the world. And we've got such lovely shades of oranges and pinks with just different amounts of root. So sometimes a strong dye bath and sometimes just a weaker exhaust one. And we modified the colours with mineral salts, alum and iron.
I couldn't have said that myself. Thanks, Eva. Yeah, I think one of the, I've always been a huge admirer of weaving in the Australian Tapestry workshop, but it's one of those things that slips away as soon from my memory of how it all works as after like a couple of days. I can't quite grasp all of the warping and wefting and bobbins. I've refreshed my memory over the last 2 days, but it's super technical, it's super intuitive, and I think I haven't made that mind-body connection because I haven't practiced the art myself, and now I think I should start. If you have a workshop someday, I'll come. Can you tell us a bit about where you started as a weaver? What that kind of starting point of basic technique to then build into starting to dye your own wools, and then you're just starting your training or interest in blending different wools together to create new colours. I don't know if you've seen the Marie Clark Tapestry. You'll probably get the chance to go into the workshop soon. But if you look in at how the what are they called again? Bobbins are kind of assembled. There's about 4 to 5 different colours on one, just to create the illusion of a new colour. So you're kind of branching out into that now. But where did you start from?
Yeah, at the tapestry workshop, the work is a bit different than mine because they're weaving on a vertical tapestry loom, like very similar to Aubusson French style weaving. So they're creating a lot of complex colors there's so many shades of colors here that blows my mind. And then you have to have a really good sense of color theory to be mixing 5 threads, wrapping it at the same time on a bobbin. So it requires also a lot of planning and math and organization. And then of course there's this flow state of weaving, which is comes with a bit of a muscle memory. I think anyone can weave. How I started was just simple weavings on a little vertical frame. You can literally just take a frame and wrap around it, just create a skeleton, because warp is the vertical threads and the weft is the horizontal threads. You just weave your threads through by basically you're interlacing them. And the loom that I use is a floor loom. It's a 4-shaft loom. The funny thing is, what's holding that table is also the loom that I use, Nils Lickler. Everything is really multifunctional. So the loom allows you to create tension and creates a plane where you can throw your shuttles. It's a full body movement where you press the pedals and that opens different shafts, and then your hands will be throwing. I usually use a shuttle because my works are sometimes more horizontally layered, and it's just this rhythmic, ritualistic thing that you become one with the loom and start weaving. So my loom is that way, but how I started was just weaving on vertical, like just a frame, making small tapestries, and then I realized that I had a language, because weaving is like a language. It's alive. It comes from many ancient civilizations. There's many traditions, but I was very interested in using materials that were surrounding me, upcycled materials that find, integrate into the work. So it was just like it came with a sense of like making almost like music or writing a letter, and then when I realized it resonated with people, I was more encouraged to go bigger, and the room, of course, allowed me to do that.
Yeah, you described yesterday that weaving was quite similar to playing music, and it's almost like an instrument, the way the loom's set up, like a piano or an organ or something. And you like listen to music and you get into a bit of a flow state, which I think that's you need kind of strong techniques and flow for that kind of mind-body connection to come out as you're making a work like this, which has multiple different techniques. Can you talk us through what we're seeing here?
Yeah, I think the whole process involves, first thing is to prepare your warp, so you'll be just winding on a warping board all your threads, like for example, how many bends is it, and then 280 ends, or how many ends that would define the width of the work, and then you would slay the reed and put your thread through the treadles, and then create a tension. But as you're putting your thread through the treadles, which are like these eyelets that you pass your threads, it's a very, you have to be very focused, and otherwise it would show up on the draft notation as you're reading. But that's also a nice, sometimes like errors are good, I think.
Yeah.
That's when mistakes happen, sometimes it's a nice surprise. But yeah, the music notation, the draft notation itself looks like music notes, because it tells you like what to press and how to thread it, like 4, 3, 2, 1. It's like a binary language. Who is the first computer? It operates in a binary language. So how you set it up, you can create these patterns. The works here today, though, they're really much more focusing on texture and tactile qualities of things. For example, this work, it's woven on the loom again, but it's deconstructed, and there's a lot of rope elements that I weave
into the actual
yeah.
weaving process. It's not applique, which is an important distinction, I think.
I wrap the ropes,
Yeah.
and then I weave them into the weaving, and they're all interconnected. It's kind of a macro scale of how weaving works, you can see, but at the same time, it's also like drawing.
Yeah.
I'm drawing with the rope. The weaving is a grid structure, so there is this certain structure to it, but then I think these forms allow me to play with the fluidity and organic aspect of it, which I like, this freedom and the structure element of weaving allows you to do.
But I feel like there's a kind of timeless futurism to your style of weaving. When we were talking about your experiences over the years, living in different countries and having family in lots of different countries and between lots of different cultures as well, I feel that's kind of a reason as to why there's this unburdened way of making and referencing and openness to accepting a new technique into your repertoire. Can you tell, you were talking yesterday about Anatolian kind of, where they desire tapestries, where you could see your future and weave your dreams into tapestries, and how you think about culture and your experience as a kind of as a contemporary woman, and how that's kind of expressed through your work quite, I would say, non-judgmentally and intuitively.
I think as a kid, being in Turkey, like rolling around kidding and just seeing all these symbols, I later on understood that they were all woven. It's a slip tapestry weaving, but life back then was also more nomadic.
Yeah.
So people were more also connected to the land. Like they would dye the wool, and then weave it, spin it. So everything involved the human touch and the human processes. A side note, that's why I love being in Australia, because I think you can really do things locally here. Like when I live in New York or Paris less, but there's not, like you can go 1 hour away and there's so many sheep, and then there's these mills and the spinning, everything can be done locally, and that's amazing. Because I think, as Annie Albert said, it's very important to have a sense of touch and do things with our hands, otherwise we grow lopsided.
Yeah.
And the keylings is very special to me because it's mainly woven by women, and they're very beautiful, like abstract keylings. Beautiful abstract tapestries, and they have all these symbols, and all those symbols have meaning. So a young girl who's getting married could be like telling a whole story, and they're expressing her fears and dreams.
Kind of diaristic, would you say? Like,
could be. I think weaving has this aspect of like you go back, you come back, you write on the floor, or you put some more melodies. Like it has this because it takes time to do it. But the keeling tapestries are personal to me because from Anatolia, from that region, I find it very beautiful and storytelling. And I think every civilization, like in South America, in Peru, the Inca civilization has incredible. There's a similarity, and there's also like a pixelization and very video game-like aspect to it.
It's incredible how some of the most ancient tapestries look like what is being innovated today and on a computer today. It's I think the forms are informed by the medium in a way because it's like a pixel, each element, each weave.
Yeah, I did a collaboration in Paris with Message at Chanel's Métier des Arts, and I wove a monumental big tapestry, and then the public was involved to embroider the panels, and the panels we digitally printed, distorted the video game platforms. I distorted them, and then they were embroidered, and it was this like game with levels. To me, like the pixelization, the keylings, there's like a connection there that I find interesting because I grew up playing a lot of video games in the 90s. So
it all makes sense now. And I think like we're so lucky to live in a time where residencies are really supported and understood. I actually wrote my honours thesis on residencies, and at the time it was actually a struggle to find a lot of material that kind of endorsed and validated it in an academic way. But having done a residency right before writing my thesis, I was like, oh, I can kind of see why it's not written about and spoken too much about, because everyone who does them knows, and how the importance is in those in-between moments, and in the studio time, and the time to be quietly chipping away at innovating your practice and thinking of and dreaming about where it could go. But it's nice, I think we'll give residencies some airtime here, because you've done quite a few. You obviously are here as a resident now, and with your beautiful exhibition song. Can you tell me about some of the opportunities that have come out of residencies for you?
I've done my latest residency before this was at Push in France. When I arrived, it was COVID lockdown, so it was very special to be there. We were in a building, 200 artists, each had our own, like it was an office building, but we could transform it into artist studios. And it was just very special because we had a lot of people that would bring visitors, like the founders, Arve and Ivanoe. They would bring a lot of people, and in France, they're very into savoir-faire, like transmission crafts, and it was just an amazing moment to be there, bringing all the work that I've done in Turkey during lockdown and showing the works and doing like big collaborations. I think as an artist, the biggest importance for me is having encounters with other people, collaborators, craftsmen, where this kind of transmission happens. So Push was incredible, but then we were in an even bigger place where we had bigger studios. It allows you to having the space and creation and people being in interaction with it. And now I'm here, which is great. Yeah, before I was in New York in Greenpoint, again in artist studios. So I think for artists it's important to have the time and space to create and explore. Because sometimes you can be just on making shows, and you have to kind of take the time to innovate and explore. And I think residencies allow you to do that. For example, here I have my students right next to the front desk, and there's all these books. So I'm so amazed that I could come and just flip through all these books and go through them. They're very special, limited edition, amazing curation of books. Or that all the women here are also incredible. Like, it's mostly women, but shout out to Tony. Tony is dear Tony. But it's very inspiring to see the things that they're getting done, making these tapestries, and it's just a very inspiring place to see all the weavers weaving. I could get to watch like Saffron on the side weaving, or Tim, or Pam, like mixing colors, and I'm there sitting doing something that I can watch them. So this residency by far is the most special residency I've done.
That's amazing. I love to hear that whilst we're here.
It's a very special place that doesn't exist in many places in the world. It's amazing.
And the artworks that come out of these residencies are always just like blow my mind. They're incredible. What were you what was the kind of scope of interest or concept when you were doing these 3 new works here?
I think they were like a continuation of the audio work that I've been making. I call the show songs because I always feel like I'm making melodies, or it's like a piece of music. Or when I finish a piece, I always think of it, does it sing? So I have this attitude towards if the work can sing or not. And they're also very sculptural always. I'm interested in kind of the 3D element of how far I can push the sculptural aspect of a weaving through these rope weavings or heavy fringes. So it was really around the idea of mixing also materials that I found in Australia, in Melbourne. I used hand-dyed wool from the Tapestry workshop and felted wool from a mill nearby, from the Australian sheets, which is like this thick, beautiful wool. And I collaborate with an Italian mill, which really is special for me, because when you collaborate with like an advanced mill, there's all these innovations and experiments that allows me also to push that fiber or thread and see where it can go. And I've been lucky to collaborate with them to be making, like, there's like raffia or lurex or interesting, very fine, weird threads that
Italian.
Yeah, they're all from like lots of Italian upcycled fibers. So I think it's really a lot about the materiality that I'm interested in, of mixing traditional and non-traditional, synthetic and organic, because that's my surrounding and that's what I find around me, and I find it interesting to mix those and create a body of work with those things that are around me.
Yeah, I think that there's always like a history and a story woven into weavings, whether they're kind of more formal images that are literal depictions, like Kayla Mate's commission that's in the exhibition at ACCA at the moment on exploring the theme of loneliness. Are you lonely tonight? I'm so lonesome I could cry. You know Kayla, which is cool because apparently the weaving world's quite small but mighty. Everyone knows each other. Her tapestry is pictorial. So you're seeing kind of like a history tapestry, like a Bayeux tapestry, even a contemporary depiction of the times in which we live and interact through internet memes and text messages. And she's exploring heartbreak and searching for overcoming loneliness or experiences of loneliness through picture. But you haven't really had that. You haven't really gone into figuration. You've been more about not for lack of exploring a story through your work, because every element you recall, like that person or where it came from, or that dye, or the person who kind of invited you to learn about the dyeing, for example. That's all still embedded into the work, but it's a different story and way of storytelling than figuration. So when did you kind of make those calls between, I guess, not even really exploring figuration so much in your practice?
I think it was very intuitive. And I think I like the idea that everyone can have their own reflection on the work and have their own memory or feeling or just maybe the feeling of I want to touch it or something, and everyone can have a different reaction to it. And then I think that variety is interesting to me. I think it would be boring if everyone took the same thing and looked at the same thing. That's my feeling for me. So I like the abstraction and that it could be anything, and it depends on the viewer. And but again, because it's textiles and it's tactile, I think, and textiles have a fun way of reminding you of things. Whether if you touch like you're wearing probably a linen skirt, if you touch linen, and you might have memories of something during summertime, or like it brings all these memories. And you're born in textiles, you're wrapped in textiles, they're shelters, they're protectors. You die and you're wrapped in textiles back again. So I think it's a really part of this everyday life, this very humble material, and it's also very soft and playful and bendable, and you can create different forms with it. So I think my attraction is really about material, the memory, the encounters, the transmission of the craft. But then also, I think what's interesting at the Tapestry workshop, there is this knowledge, the craft, but then for me, craft is a living language, it's alive, and it's interesting that here as well, Tapestry workshop is contemporary artists, and it has this dialogue between the craftsman and the artist, and that's like innovation, because it's a living language, it's not something that should be boxed in a glass box, and it just evolves. So
Yes, face-to-face and real-time conversations are so important for knowledge sharing and keeping techniques alive. Have you had any big moments where you've met someone in your career that's kind of introduced you or been a mentor to you?
I think there's been so many important people, I think, that have my path and encounters. I guess the beginning was in New York. I was working in fashion, I was working as a stylist assistant, doing windows, being a visual merchandiser, and then collecting all the trash from the windows and started weaving them into my work at night. And then there was a big collector who at the time really allowed me to. I think it's important, the first people that helps you to think big and believes in you, that gives you the confidence when you're just emerging and starting something.
Definitely.
And then I also had my first, before that actually, it was my first big commission was for Diane from Standard in New York.
Ah, that was a t-shirt I was wearing yesterday.
And Lee Edarcourt, who's a very important figure in the dialogue of like having craftsmanship, bringing back the hand into fashion and making, she's like a trend forecaster, but also does this magazine called Living Textiles. And she was a big, those people gave me my first commission, and I had Jonathan Saunders was the creative director. I incorporated some of the fabrics from the store and wove it.
Wow.
Again, I was just really, the dialogue, I think, between all these industries, design, fashion, art, it's interesting because it's circular, and it's also the transformation of having a material that has a meaning and then taking it, weaving it, and it becomes something else. Or in Paris, Etam, which is a bra company, asked me to make a commission like a large tapestry made out of upcycled bras. And I was like, yes, that's awesome. So, I worked with Disabled People Organization, Thanks for Nothing Initiative in Paris, and we worked with them to arrange all the bras in certain colors, like black, white, red, pink, and then in my studio I had like this mountain of bras where I felt like all these women's fantasies. But the interesting thing was like I was just playing with it. I chopped it off. I used a strap, and on an like irony, I don't like bras personally. I think there's something of the past. But it was funny that I gave a bra company a tapestry that was a deconstruction of bras, and it was called the EBE.
Nice.
So yeah, the material and the people and getting commissions, collaborations, these are very important aspects. And I've been so lucky to have so many important people. And the residency, I was helped a lot to create these dialogues in Paris, especially.
Yeah, amazing. And what about your relationship to colour? Because I'm looking around and I'm like, how haven't I mentioned this yet? Because they're so beautiful and luscious. And you've got a very great sense of style where they kind of play off and complement each other, each of the colours. So how are you reacting to them and choosing these colours?
It's very intuitive, but I always start with color. I don't have a plan of what exactly is happening, but of course I know the scale, and if it's a larger work, perhaps a bit more idea, but the color is the first place I start with, and I think it's emotional and intuitive, and just like natural reaction to a certain material. Now I'm going to mix that and that, like a painterly approach of just creating your palette on the floor or on top of the room, and which yarns I might use, and it can evolve as I'm weaving, because I also have to plan the ropes that I'm going to integrate, so I will be wrapping the ropes in advance. But we are emotional and intuitive.
Yeah. Do you have to work on multiple tapestries to kind of be satisfied? Because the different stages of working on a tapestry are quite different. Like, I guess you were talking about comparing the setup to priming a canvas, and then you can have your fun if you were a painter. So, and it's quite labour intensive getting to that point where you could start wefting with the bobbin. I'll be fluent at the end of this chat. Yeah. So how do you get the satisfaction? And it's obviously very time consuming, and then you need the space. So what's the kind of ideal setup for you?
I have one loom at the moment,
Okay.
but I had 2 looms when I was in New York, and it was a blast.
Yeah.
Amazing, you can just jump between them.
Yeah.
It's great, but they take space. But you could also weave on a frame loom at the same time, but the works at the moment are one at a time. So once a work gets off the loom, I can stop the next work. So there's a very ceremonial aspect of like here as well when they cut tapestry. It's like cutting off the loom, and it has this ceremonial aspect to it when you finish a work and take it off the loom.
And do you think about them as bodies of work when you're doing the preparations and thinking about the colours? For example, in these 3 here, because obviously you have to make some really strong, confident decisions early on to set it up, and then commit over a long period of time to building up the image, and then to have 3 that kind of play off each other. Tell me about that process.
I think it just flows naturally. The first work, the materials that I have will of course influence the decision, because I'll be using those colors and materials. So what I received from the mill or what I pick up at the tapestry workshop. And then I think as I'm weaving, like one work might inform the work that's coming next. Because I'll be thinking, oh, this happened, or what could happen next.
Yeah.
There's not a set idea of I'll do this and that and that. But just flowing of one thing happens, what would be
It's
working next.
It's a segue.
Yeah. I feel like also what you're exposed to can really influence you. Like I think it happens with painters or weavers, but if you wear a certain color, or it just starts going into the all of a sudden, things like that.
Yeah, I was looking at your work, when you're in New York, you were kind of really pushing into bold, poppy colours. And I think you have this kind of geographical response to wherever you're living, and that kind of, is it conscious to have that reflected in the work, or is it again about the materials and the context and what's available informing the development of the work?
When I was weaving those acid color works, I was in Brazil, and there, Fortaleza, the city, had a lot of thread production, and everything was super neon and bright. Yeah. And so again, the place really informs the colors of the work. And I think my palette has changed as I got older as well. I've been drawn more to neon and pop colors, and I feel like it's becoming more natural and more earthy.
Yeah.
I think because also the aspect of like I've been dyeing last summer, hand dyeing with Anatolian weavers and dyers, and the collaboration with another dyer in Paris, with a farm, and then just been very involved like with dyeing and now with heather. So I've been very drawn to these colors that are more earthy and also they've been diving here a lot about the plants that are surrounds us and what colors those plants create. So yeah, the palette has become more earthy since then. But yeah, the surrounding definitely affects it.
Yeah, which is, I think, a good thing. It's so nice to see those kinds of. I love art and seeing art in the context in which it's made, because I feel like you can see clues in the world around you. And I feel the same about music as well, like seeing and experiencing music in a country or in a space where it was actually intended. And so tell us about your relationship between song, music, and weaving.
Music and weaving, there's many aspects. Like the first one is the loom feels very musical. It's very rhythmic. It makes sounds as you're weaving. You can have a certain rhythm, the loom will make those sounds. Even here at the Tapestry workshop, the sound is they're beating, or with the bobbins, like picking the warps, and you can hear these sounds of thread. So there's something musical. Also, in Anatolia, there's some weavers that when they weave a tapestry, they sing at the same time, so they can be in the same rhythm.
Right.
They sing like there's some also the weavers in other regions there that happens.
There are so many haptic ways that knowledge can be held, other than just rote learning. And I think rhythm and song and the way I've seen the weavers here work, kind of having this kind of I've used the word mind-body connection. It unlocks knowledge quite intuitively, and I feel like a lot of contemporary society's departed a lot from that wisdom. Unfortunately, we've made things easier for ourselves, but at the expense of losing some of the technologies that our bodies have actually had built into us to help us retain information. And I think weaving is one of those ancient but contemporary mediums that when you're able to learn it and become fluent in it, you're a lot of the weavers I know are very peaceful people and have great knowledge retention, which I think speaks volumes to the medium itself. I don't know how you remember everything. Are you looking much to history to keep your practice moving forward? We were looking at some of the ancient kind of examples of rugs and weavings and how futuristic some of them were.
Definitely, like besides the ancient civilization, the carpets, the kiddings, I'm also very inspired about the Bauhaus, the modernists, like Annie Albers, or Sheila Hicks, with the why not attitude towards textiles.
Yeah.
Those are like heroes that paved the path for the textile artist, and I think it's like the contemporary approach to textiles, and having this approach really gives space to textiles in general.
Yeah. And what about your family? Are they weavers as well?
I learned from my grandmother.
Yeah.
She raised me, but it was more domestic, like just weaving and knitting. I think it was just textiles can be also like this resilience of approach, like it's an attitude of making, and I think I just was very take that learning approach, and then when I was on the loom, I was just very into the idea of like making things on the loom. It's kind of allows you to synthesize everything and make something out of nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Have they seen a lot of your work, your family?
Yes, because I worked during lockdown and I have a room there, so whenever I go, they see me weaving.
That's good. And have you shown your grandmother how to do the techniques you work with now?
Yeah, she watches me sometimes. She's
That's so
around.
cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's fun to be with 3 generations, like growing up with mom, grandmother, and me. Because I think, I mean, I grew up like that, so I love that.
Yeah.
Special.
I think art has a superpower of allowing relationships to be kept alive in very nuanced and like ways that feel right. There's ways of communicating between your elders and those who've come before you beyond just a conversation. And we saw that. I was talking to you yesterday about Melissa Nguyen's work in the ACCA exhibition, which Kayla Martez is in as well, and her painting practice allowed her to inherit stories from her mother, who was a refugee from Vietnam, and she didn't know these stories prior to focusing on a body of work that allowed her to kind of have an excuse to sit with her mom and listen to what she'd been through. And then because she didn't have any photographs, her mum didn't have any photographs when she fled Vietnam, Melissa decided to kind of make surrogate photographs by painting and finding photographs that resembled those stories that she heard from her mum, and then painting versions of those stories to create an archive for her family to have for each other and see them in public, and for other people who've maybe gone through something similar, or just or not, but also looking for ways to connect with other people and be inspired by that was super meaningful at the opening. So it's very special to hear how weaving and other art forms have invited such meaningful relationships between people. And I think at the residency, connecting and slowing down and watching and then talking and focusing on your own work, they're very special conditions that I think we all deserve more of in our own little ways. You kind of just have to take glimmers of what you see around you in the art world and then choose to practice them in your personal life. So that was a kind of tangent that was just saying thank you for sharing your wisdom with me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you yesterday and today, and to slow down and see how this practice is holding so much knowledge for you in your personal life, in professional relationships, to geography, to country, to ancestral knowledge keepers, and presenting all of that story for us in a super fresh and intriguing and hopeful way. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
For questions, we will be lingering for a while also. So if anybody's got a burning question, please just put up your hand, and maybe you two can share the microphone. Come round to you.
Thank you so much for the conversation today, and linking into the show at ACCA that we've seen, and some of your contexts and family connections and histories has been so valuable to thinking about the works that we see today. I'm curious, you've talked about a number of major commissions that you've done and the importance of those commissions, and that having trust and having faith and how that's inspired you to do that. Thinking about the contemporary art world, obviously with my particular bias, which is art museums and galleries, the relationship of your work to those institutions, being included in exhibitions such as the one at ACCA, and what that means too for your work and for you in thinking about your place and your stories in a wider world.
Sorry, so the question is?
So the question is for you. Your work, you talked about those commissions and the importance of those commissions. So working with an individual in either a commercial space or in a space where your work and your weaving and your approach to art making is seen in a different context. Within the contemporary art world, you went to ACCA yesterday and you saw weavings in a contemporary exhibition making context. How is it different? Is it different? what's the difference for you in thinking about your work in an exhibition context and in thinking about those commissions and that different space?
Yeah. I think when you work with a commission, you're working with a client, and it's like it has been carte blanche. You can do whatever you want. I think that's what should be given to the artist, because there should be a certain freedom. But also, I think wherever it's being exhibited, I think it's important, like textiles, to have a dialogue with the architecture, with the space. And then in a commission also, you have this support of a budget or a material that you will be provided. And I think for artists it's important, because like you have to have the materials or the studio, that you have these costs. So the dream is when you can have access to materials that really gives you the freedom to play, to create. And so the commissions, I think, it's trusting each other and then making a work, and hopefully they like it. and for the show, it's really what you want to say and do. And with galleries, like with my gallery with Ventrup in Germany, it's just really a dialogue again of trust and studio visits, and it's like building like a friendship, and you get to know each other better and better. And again, there's a trust, but with shows, I think you just have to have your own ideas and what you're going to show, what you would like to do. So there's these, just one involves a bit more of a specifications perhaps, and more people involved. Like the Desage, there was all the embroidery masters where I collaborated with, like, what should we do, what would be the best. So there's more dialogues. And in a show, usually it's a bit of a one-man show where you have to weave and knot and then pack and all these things.
I think we've got time for one more question. Anybody else? Esther.
Thank you. What an absolute treat. You have taken me to my grandmother's Anatolian homes and the sounds and the scents. But I'm also really struck by how deliciously feminist these works are, which my grandmothers would have loved, but privately. And I can imagine having a conversation with each of my grandmothers about, we see here, I mean, these just strike me as the forms of women's bodies as we find in, say, a Greek column. But then in the looping, which is telling us, about how weaving works and how tufting works, they're also, they're a bit naughty, they're a bit clitoral. I love it. And so I'm just wondering, how explicit is that feminist approach in your work?
I love the naughty, bubbly approach that the way you talked about it. I think it's definitely, you have to be a bit mischievous with textiles. The woman body form, the fluidity, the organic shapes. I think the craft has been considered a feminine medium because of its woman's labor, and then that craft, that dialogue, craft, contemporary art. So I think it's important to not think of categories and just think of the work itself. And just really, I'm interested in like pushing the medium with sculpture and forms. But as you said, there's, I think, definitely a certain, perhaps a rebel that you want to do on the loom, that like experiment. Like it's important to me to do that, to push the medium with just experimentation, and play plays a big part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for those tricky questions. Very much appreciated. So please stay. Please feel free to have a look around the floor, but please join me in thanking our wonderful speakers today.
Thank you so much for coming. I really didn't expect so many people to show up. Thank you.
To work out whether she had done some of the applying during the weaving, but no, it's obviously after. It's the stitching and the wow. Isn't it? Right? Amazing. And I tried to text I was thinking groups actually, but that was yeah.